The egg-shaped incubator floated behind Mandalore through the muddy and impassable canyon. The little green man inside opened his eyes and looked curiously at the lizards walking back and forth on the ground. Mandalore's instinct told him that there was something strange around him. Sure enough, 3 Trandashans jumped out of their hiding place. Mandalore grabbed an electric knife and killed the 2 of them with the knife in his hand, then raised pulse rifle and aim at another Trandashan running towards the incubator. After the gunfire, the Trandashan turned into a pile of ashes. A tracker falls out of the ashes. Mandalore wonders how many bounty hunters have trackers on the green men. Returning to the landing point of Blade Top, Mandalore saw that a group of Jawas had dismantled the spacecraft into pieces. He shot and killed several of the nasty scavengers, but still couldn't prevent most of the parts from being moved into their desert crawler. The tracked vehicle was like a moving castle. Mandalore quickened his pace, jumped onto the tracked vehicle, and grabbed it, ignoring the incubator that was chasing after him. The Jawas threw all kinds of scrap metal and parts from the small window, hitting the helmets and armor with a clanking sound. Mandalore struggled to climb to the roof of the car, and what awaited him were several dark gun muzzles. After a burst of electric sparks, Mandalore felt numb all over and got off the crawler. When Mandalore woke up, the desert crawler had long disappeared, leaving only 2 wide track marks extending into the distance. Seeing the little green man's big eyes blinking, Mandalore couldn't do anything. The instruments in the top of the blade had been dismantled, and even the weapons depot was empty. Unable to leave the planet, and without the weapons to attack the Jawas' fortress, there was only one place to go, and that was Keel's steam farm. Keel was not surprised that Mandalore could come back alive. The legendary Mandalorian was by no means a wasted reputation. He just didn't expect that the thing killed countless people would be such a little guy who couldn't even speak. Fortunately, Keel was very familiar with the Jawas. They only stole things and did not cause destruction. As long as you find them and get all the parts back, you can reassemble the top of the blade. Mandalore can also deliver the little green men alive to clients and get the bounty. Keel rode the bugler and towed the landing craft. Mandalore and the little green man sat in the car and drove all night, following the track marks to find the mobile fortress. At daybreak, the Jawas' camp was finally found. In order to get the parts back, Mandalore had to put down his weapons, sit on the ground, and negotiate with these dwarfs who were less than 1 meter tall. The Mandalorian armor on his body cannot be replaced, nor can the little green men on the car. With Keel's mediation, the Jawas offered to exchange eggs for parts. When Keel heard this, he patted his forehead regretfully. Mandalore sat cross-legged in the cockpit of the crawler, unable to straighten his head. The journey was bumpy and they reached the depths of the valley. There is a cave arched out of the mud at the bottom of the valley, which should be the lair of the Mudhorn beast. Mandalore took out his magnetic blaster, turned on the flashlight on his helmet, and walked into the dark cave. At the end of the cave, there was a pile of rotten grass. When Mandalore was about to rummage for eggs in the grass, and I popped out of the rotten grass. That is not grass, it is clearly the hair of a Mudhorn beast. Mandalore fired 2 shots in succession but could not hurt the Mudhorn at all, and he was pushed out of the cave instead. Mandalore fell onto his back, the armor on his chest twisted and deformed, and the pulse rifle behind his back fell into the mud and became unusable. The small mountain-like Mudhorn beast rushed out of the cave with the sharp horns on its head and then pushed Mandalore over, who had just climbed up. Then he turned and rushed towards the incubator with the potential to sweep everything away. Mandalore hurriedly shot out his left wrist hook and pulled the incubator. The right wrist shoots out flames to deal with the violent beasts. But like a fly shaking a tree, Mandalore was staggered by the Mudhorn beast, unable to fight back. If can't get the egg, he will be trapped on the planet Alva 7 forever. If want to go back, he have to kill this giant beast in front. Mandalore was exhausted. Facing the oncoming Mudhorn, he could only feebly raise the vibroblade in a last futile effort. The rumble that shook the ground suddenly disappeared, the little green man in the incubator raising his little hand, and the Mudhorn beast was controlled by an unknown force, floating off the ground, twisting its body crazily in the air. Mandalore stabbed hard in the eye of the Mudhorn, and the Mudhorn fell to the ground. The little green man also fell in the incubator and fainted. The Jawas got the fluffy Mudhorn eggs as they wished. They peeled off the shells and tasted the delicious yolks. Keel spent several days repairing the blade's edge with Mandalore. On the way back, Mandalore looked at the little green man who was still sleeping soundly with many thoughts in his mind.